Hi, I'm Michael Lang with Nexel Academy. This video is part of an introductory course on building websites with HTML and CSS. In the last video in the series, we opened a new project from scratch in VS Code. We added some content on the page. We saw that page running in Explorer, in Chrome Developer Tools, and then we also played with that page in Chrome Developer Tools to see how we can modify it with all the debugging tools to see how all that worked together. And then we also played with another site that wasn't our own, to see that you could change those sites as well and how that worked. So check out the prior video if you haven't done that yet. But today we're going to go ahead and use some CSS and style that page from the last video. So let's go ahead and look over here at the code. See, right now I've got Visual Studio Code open with the project from the last video. It's got a heading and a few paragraphs, and over on the right I've got Chrome Developer Tool, Chrome open with the page. It's the same content that's over on the page right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by adding some color to this. So the first way you can add some style to a page is with the style attribute. This is not the way we're going to go forward long term, but it's still good for one-off cases like you really need to change one element to be different than what else you do in your style sheet. So it's still worth learning. So we're going to go over that first. So I'm going to say that I want to make this first paragraph a different color. So the way to do that is using HTML attributes. So on the paragraph tag, if I put something inside the tag, so I'm still inside the angle brackets, if I put the name style and then equal sign and a set of quotes, this is an attribute. So the style attribute is what we're setting right now. And the value we're setting it to is whatever's inside the quotes. So if we wanted to change the color of the text, I could say color, and VS Code is being a little bit helpful here and give me some ideas of what the style attribute rule names are. And then you do a colon to signify you want to specify the value now, and then you can just scroll through this list and pick one. Say Burleywood. And if you're going to do more than one rule, you have to put a semicolon, and then you could do another rule. Okay. For now, right now, I'm just going to keep one rule just to see what that looks like. So I'm going to save that file, and over on the right you'll see, since I'm using live reload, the page updated automatically, and now it's using that new color. Okay, so there are other attributes you can put on an element. One is the ID attribute. This is a unique identifier of this particular element, so I could say P1, maybe this is just to indicate it's the first paragraph. You can also use another attribute called class. This is if you want to have more than one element be within the same group. So you want to treat them all the same way, you give them all the same class attribute. So in this case, I might say main. So this is a paragraph in the main area of the content. Maybe I'll say that this one's the same. I might have a footer. Okay, and in here there might be a paragraph. And that one, maybe I'm not going to put main on, so I don't want to style paragraphs in the footer the same way as in the main part of the page. This is a footer. Okay, so there we go. Now I don't have it styled to the bottom of the page or anything yet, but it is below the rest of the content. Okay, so if I wanted to make all of these paragraphs that same color, Burleywood, I would have to go and copy this style to every single paragraph that I wanted that style. So let's say I put it here. If I did want to do another one, say I could copy this one, maybe I got a couple more paragraphs, and I'm saying they're all color Burleywood. Okay, you can do that. It's not the most ideal way to do it. If you were to export, let's say, a Microsoft Word document to HTML, you might get a lot of inline style like this, where every single element is controlled through inline style. At least one version of Word, that was how they exported all the time. All right, so we don't really want to do that going forward, because what if down the line we say, you know what, I don't really want Burleywood anymore. I want, let's see, what else do we have here? Cadet Blue. Okay, well, I updated only one paragraph updated, so I really want all of them to update, so I have to copy that, and I have to go paste it all around, and hopefully I don't forget one. Okay, that's one of the big problems with inline style is that if you want to update a bunch of things together using the style attribute, you have to go do each one separately. Not to mention now this is a lot more code also. So what we really want is a single place that we can do that to affect all the elements that we want to change all at one time. So the way to do that was with style or CSS. The first place you could put it is in the document that you're working on. So up in the head of the document, I can do a tag called style. Okay, and up here, this will control style of the whole page. But you don't just say color cadet blue. So it's, as you can see here, VS Code is confused. It doesn't know what we're trying to do. Because we have to tell it what elements do we want to affect, right? Because down here, we said what elements we want to affect because we put it on the element itself. But we need a way to specify what element it goes on if it's up here at the top. So the way to do that is with a selector. So a selector has a format of selector, a set of curly braces, and then your rules inside of that. So if I want to put my style in here, now it's at least happy syntactically with that. Okay, this is not a valid selector at this point, so we need to make this one of the main types of selectors. There's element selectors, ID selectors, and class selectors, and then there's a whole sort of combinations of those selectors. So what if I wanted to style all paragraphs on the page? I would just put a P here. So you just put the name of the element. So since the element is, the tag is P, you put a P up here. It's just a one-to-one match. If I wanted to match all headings, I would type H1 up here. Okay. If I want H1s and paragraphs, I can do a comma between them, and so now I'm affecting more than one type of element. So I will take it back down to paragraphs, and we refresh the page, and these are still blue, and this one's still burlywood. Why is that? Okay, so these still have inline style. Inline style wins. It's always going to win. So even if, so let's say this one says red, that one is now red. It's totally disregarding the style at the top of the page. So if we want to see why that is, let's use our Chrome developer tools. I'm going to inspect this page. I'm going to pick that first paragraph and say, what is going on? All right, so that one is picked. So we're on the elements section of the Chrome developer tools, and within that there's a styles sub pane. All right, so within styles, this is a list of all the styles that affect this element. So as you see down here, it goes from bottom up. So bottom up is least important, the top is the most important. So the bottom rules apply. These take effect unless something above them has the same rule type. So here, display is still winning, the margins are still winning because there's no other rule above them that is overriding it. Now the next rule up, P tag, this is in my index.html, line 6, that's in the style tag. If I click on that, it'll show me, yep, there it is. Okay, that's the source code affecting this line right here. But it's scratched out. So it's saying this is overridden by a rule that's up above. So if I look up more here, we say element style, the color is red. So that rule won out. That's why it's color red. So if we don't want it red anymore, we want to go back to the paragraph color, we're like, okay, let's go to the style element and let's take that back off. All right, so I will take off this style tag, refresh, and now that one is this cadet blue color. So I'll inspect it again. You see, it doesn't have a style tag up here in elements. This paragraph one is not overridden anymore. There's no element style above it. Although I could add something here, just the what if scenario. And so yeah, that's what I took out. So that's why it's working now. It's inheriting from the style. So what about this next paragraph? It has a paragraph color of cadet blue assigned from the CSS, from the style tag, but it also has an element style. So it's really getting it from element style. So if I were to go over and change this to something else, okay, well, these are not going to change. These other two paragraphs that have inline style aren't changing. They're not respecting the style tag. So again, just take that off. So I'm going to take all the style tags off these elements so that they all inherit from the CSS. Make sure you don't mess up your quote matching. All right, so now they're all inheriting from the CSS, and now I can go change this back to cadet blue, and now they all update with one line being changed. Sound good? All right. So what if there's different paragraphs that I want to style differently? Notice here the footer is still a different color. What if I wanted to change this footer paragraph but not the other ones? Or what if I wanted to change the main ones instead? So there's also another selector called the class selector. And with that one you start with a period and then you do the name of the class. So down below the class is equal to main, so I'll just put the word main here. Do my set of curly braces. The only error here is that it's empty, so it wants me to put something in here. I will start with color of, let's see, how about blue. So now they're a little bit different. The footer one's still cadet blue and the rest are blue. So that's because these other ones have a class of main. So you might think, well, I don't want to put a class of main on every paragraph. Okay, that's still a lot of things to do. We don't have to do that either. We could wrap these paragraphs in another element. So I'm going to give them a div, a class of main. Okay, and I'm going to move all of those paragraphs into that div. All right, now I don't need to have class main on these paragraphs because now they're inside of a div that is class main instead. All right, so div class main. They are not getting the blue color. Let's see why. All right, so let's debug this to really see why that happened. So our style says class of main has color blue, but our paragraphs have cadet blue. So if I look at this first paragraph, for example, you see down here at the bottom, it does have color blue in the style history, but it's way at the bottom. So it says inherited from div main. So you can inherit styles from parent elements, but if you're overriding them by a style specifically on the element, that specific one is going to win. There's a lot more complication that goes in that with rules of specificity, but this is a good general rule for the start. So all right, so this color blue is winning. If that was not there, it would revert to the main. So I can see if this paragraph rule is deleted, all I have to do is the checkbox and that pretends that that rule is deleted. Now it would revert back to the color blue for the main element. Okay, so but what if I don't want to do that? I still want to do it through CSS. So how else can we do that? One way we could do it is after the main we could do a space and then we can extend the selector and make it longer. So we could say, okay, paragraphs inside of main will get color blue. Any other paragraph will get cadet blue. I'm going to save that. If I look at the page, there we go. Now these main paragraphs are blue. The footer one is still cadet blue. So let's inspect that to really see that going on. Inspect. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, so this first, let's just look at the second one, just so we know it's not related to the ID. All right, so this second paragraph, it's getting the paragraph one of color cadet blue, and then it's being overridden by the main class on the div that has a paragraph inside of it. So this rule is longer, so a good general rule is that a longer selector is going to win. That's not exactly how it works because it depends on the types of selectors at each part within that selector chain. All right, and we're going to see in a moment about how that works. But so this rule is longer, so it's going to win out over this shorter rule. Or in better terms, it's more specific. This is saying any paragraph that's inside of something with a class of main, whereas this one just says any paragraph. So which one is more specific sounding to you? It's the paragraph inside of something is more specific than just saying paragraph. So that's why it wins out. All right, so let's come back over to VS Code. This will give us some more help on that. If I hover over this selector, VS Code will say selector specificity 011. And it'll say element with a class of main with a paragraph inside. So that's kind of what this shorthand syntax is saying. This is showing an example. It's saying any element. It doesn't have to be a div. This could be something else. It could be a heading. It could be anything. It could be a span. It doesn't matter. So it just says any element with a class of main. And then the ... means there could be any number of ancestor elements in between that element with a class of main and that paragraph. Okay. And then there's paragraph. This one has a specificity of 001. So 001 is less than 011. What if this was more specific? We could make this a little bit longer. Well, okay, let's just take this back a second. What if this was 005? Would that be less than 011? Yes, it would. This, first of all, the right side is like a whole order of magnitude less than the next one up. So a 010 is a more important rule than a 001 million. It's still not more important because it's a whole order of magnitude less. So you just have to look at these. The higher to the further to the left a number is, the more important that is, and it'll win out over anything that has a lower number in that left spot. The only time it compares the second number is if the first two numbers are equal. And the only time it compares the third number between two selectors is if the second one is equal and the first one's equal. So just keep that in mind. So that's your quick tip on creating selectors. So now what if I wanted to target this other paragraph first? I could do an ID selector. I could say I want to pick the one that has that ID. For that, there's a shortcut of a hash symbol and then the value of the ID. So here we've got P1 is the ID. So hash symbol P1 will match element with an ID of P1. And notice that one has an importance of 100, so that will win out over 011 and over 001. So whatever I put here is going to win. So let's say I want this one to be, let's say, black. Okay, there we go. Refresh the page. The first paragraph is black. Let's go ahead and look at that. We'll see a longer inspector chain. Get the first paragraph. We see the paragraph is cadet blue. Paragraph inside of a class main is blue. Both of those are overridden because they're scratched out. And then an ID of P1 wins. So even though this one is longer, dot main space P, there's two parts to it. It's still less important than this single part ID selector because it's a whole order of magnitude more important. All right. So that's the basics of selectors. There are more complicated selectors. There's selectors based on looking at attribute values. There's selectors based on the state of the element, whether it's being hovered or not, or clicked on or not. There's selectors that go deep, that you can combine multiple selectors in a long chain. They can get really complicated. But this is the main basics for creating most websites. So another tip here, so what if you had a second page and you wanted them to be styled the same way? You might think, well, I'll just take this style tag and I'll copy it over the other page. Okay, well, that has the same problem as putting a class attribute on every paragraph. It's not as bad of a problem because it's still only once per file. But what if you go change this color of paragraphs in one, maybe two or three of your web pages, but you forgot that fourth page and you didn't update it? Well, that fourth page is going to look different and not match your brand. So if you really want this style to span multiple pages, the way to do that is with a CSS file. So all we do is click the new file icon. You can call it anything you want. I'm going to call it site because to me this CSS file is going to be for my entire site. So I'm just calling it site to mean that it's for my entire website. And then what's important that it ends in a .css extension. All right, so I got an empty CSS. I'm going to take all the content from within the style tag, not the style tag itself. I'm going to paste that into the CSS file. Okay, I'm going to save all of that. And get rid of my style tag. Oh, look at her the page. All the style's gone. It's all back to black color. So it's no longer looking at that CSS file. So I thought that by calling it site CSS, that meant it was going to apply to my entire site, but it's not. It's not even affecting this page. So really what it is we still need to tell this page that you want that style. Just imagine so the reason why, just imagine for a moment, what if you had 5 CSS files in here? You know, one was for one page, one was for another page, like for some custom elements in those pages, and you had a site level one. Maybe another one that was for, like, if you print this page, like it should have a different style when it's printed than when it's on the browser window on your monitor. So you might have a number of different styles, and if they just all automatically imported into an HTML file just because they're in the same folder, then how do you control what actually affects that file, right? So you need to tell the page what style files should be included. So we do that with a link tag. And so let's just look at link tag. Let's say we forgot what syntax goes into it. We can go to MDN reference. So you just do a link tag, and then click on the help for MDN reference. We open it in external site. We'll see, okay, what's the format of this thing? Okay, it looks like this. So I'm just going to copy one of these. Okay, and I'll come back over here. So great use of your resources. Use that so that you can help figure out that you get the right syntax and stuff. Now, obviously, I don't have a link example, element example CSS file. So that part I need to replace with my file. All right, so by having that in there, refresh the page. It's still not finding anything. Let's say, okay, I'm going to call it site2css. Okay, now does it load? Still not loading. Why not? Okay, let's inspect this thing and see what's going on. All right. I'm going to look at the head and say, okay, yeah, it's got a link tag. It's got a site CSS. What's going on? If I click on these elements, they're not getting any style. I do notice there's something in red over here. Okay, so as a developer in general, whatever developer tool you're looking, if something pops up in red somewhere, it's important. It's a problem of some kind. So keep an eye out for that, whether you're in Visual Studio Code, different Chrome developer tools, whatever it is, look for things that have like an X or something that's in red. That's generally going to be telling you what's the problem with this page. So I'll click on that, and it shows this console window. It says, refuse to apply style from site to CSS because it's MIME type. Text HTML is not supported. What? Okay, so it looks like it's downloading a text HTML page. This is a common problem, believe it or not. So why is it saying it's HTML? If I look over the CSS file, that doesn't look like HTML to me. Okay, so we got some more developer tools up here. So let's look over at another one. There's some called sources. This will show you what files were downloaded, and we'll see, index.html and index.html. What the heck is going on here? So that doesn't sound right. Let's check out the network tab. I will need to reload. So the network tab, if you just switch over it the first time, it's going to be empty. It does not monitor your network activity unless the network tab is open. So now that it's open, okay, now I got to refresh the page. Now it will populate with the requests that have gone over the network for this page. All right, so when I see something in red, so as soon as I see something in red, I know that's the problem. So it did load the index.html. It got a status of 200. Status 200K means the page downloaded and there were no problems. Site2CSS says canceled. Style sheet, initiator index.html, size 0, time 0. Okay. So let's look at that. Site2CSS. Oh, I don't have a Site2CSS. So, that's the kind of way you use these developer tools. I did know this was a problem from the beginning. I'm just trying to show, like, this is common problems that people have when they're developing. They get one little character wrong somewhere and it just throws them off, and you could be stuck for days. Like, I can't figure out the problem with this page. Have you used your developer tools? That's what it comes down to. Knowing your developer tools is going to make you an awesome developer. So notice here, yeah, it's the wrong file. So yeah, this is just, we're going to have to go from this amount of detail so make sure the file name exists if it's in red. All right, and so it doesn't exist. So all I need to do is come over here to Site2CSS, take off the 2. It now matches the right name. Also, use your auto-completion. So if I type href, oh, look at that. It's gonna show me what files are in the project. I can just pick it from the list and then not have to worry about making a typo in the first place. So that one little thing could have saved me that headache of the page not having its style. So I'll go ahead and refresh the page. Oh, look at that. I've got some black text, some blue text, some cadet blue text. That sounds about right. That's the styles I have in here. Good. So everything's working. Alrighty. So In this video, we've learned how to do some inline style on an element. You still might want to do that now and then. There might be one element you really want to style differently. A lot of cases for that are when you're doing it through JavaScript. So when we get to a JavaScript course, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but you can change style directly on an element from your JavaScript code. So you can do that. You can also just apply a class to an element or an ID to an element in JavaScript code so it inherits from the CSS file. But there might be some cases like that where you need to put style directly on an element. I would encourage you most of the time to do CSS, okay? But there are edge cases to use the style attribute. So we also learned different types of selectors. So if there was that case where you needed to update style of one element on the page, it might be that you can just assign it a different ID that already has that style, or you can assign it a class where it'll get that style. That's one way to do it. That's the majority time way to do it. Most of the time you'll want to do that. Either assign an ID or assign a class or something that is in your style sheet to pick it up. All right, so we learned style sheets. We're learning a lot of the selectors, how to debug some common problems. So I hope that was really helpful. This is part just of a big course on HTML and CSS. So if you want to find out more of that, there's some links at the end of this video for some other videos within this series. You can also go to our written courseware that complements these videos and gives some more details about the content of these videos at nexelacademy.com/courseware. So I'll see you in the next video.